The thing about betrayal is that it tastes sweet at first, like the expensive chocolates Linda used to bring me before she left me to rot in this cell. The concrete walls of my prison cell have become as familiar as the halls of merited Queen's College once were. 10 years have passed since that fateful night, yet the memories remain as sharp as broken glass. I'm Avery Daniels, and at 24, I've spent nearly half my adult life behind these bars, with 4 more years stretching ahead of me. Merited Queen's College wasn't always a place of shadows. When I first arrived, its pristine corridors and manicured lawns promised opportunity and excellence. The iron gates that kept us safely inside now seem like an omen I should have heeded. We were young, privileged girls from good families, expected to uphold the highest standards of moral conduct. How quickly those expectations crumbled. The signs were there from the beginning. 2 students were expelled and arrested for what the principal called inappropriate conduct. We all watched as they were paraded before us, a spectacle meant to warn us of the consequences of straying from the accepted path. I remember standing in that assembly, my heart pounding, never imagining I would one day stand in their place. Linda changed everything. She swept into my life like a storm, bringing designer clothes, expensive gifts, and promises of a love I'd never known. She was the school owner's daughter, untouchable and irresistible. I fell hard, abandoning my best friend Eva and everything I knew to be in Linda's orbit. The money she gave me brought temporary happiness, but the price would prove far steeper than I could have imagined. Now, as I write this from my small cell, I can't help but laugh at the irony. Linda, the architect of my downfall, lives freely in America where her preferences are accepted and celebrated. Meanwhile, I serve a 14-year sentence for a crime we committed together. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about me, the girl she left behind to face the consequences alone. Eva still visits, her belly now swollen with her first child. She's everything I could have been: a successful doctor, happily married, free. Yet she hasn't forgotten me. Through her, I learned the truth. Linda's mother owned the school, and her daughter's hasty escape was well planned. Linda had done this before, even involving herself with teachers and the former principal. I was just another chapter in her story, but she became the defining chapter in mine. The lights in the corridor flicker, signaling evening count. 4 more years, 1,460 days. Each one brings me closer to freedom, and to the revenge I've planned so carefully. Linda may have escaped to America, but some debts can't be outrun. My name is Avery Daniels, and this is just the beginning of my story. Looking back through the iron bars of my cell, I see us also clearly now, the players in my tragedy, each performing their roles with precision. I was Avery Daniels, the naive student at Merited Queen's College, believing in love and friendship until both betrayed me in different ways. Now at 24, I count the days of my 14-year sentence, wondering how I became the only one paying the price for a crime shared by 2. Linda was everything I wasn't: wealthy, confident, and untouchable. The daughter of the school's owner walked our halls like a queen, her designer shoes clicking against marble floors as if announcing royalty. She showered me with gifts, expensive clothes, a new phone, and enough money to make me feel special. But her greatest gift was attention, delivered with practiced charm that made me feel like the only girl in the world. I never saw the puppet strings until they were cut, leaving me to fall alone. She knew exactly what she was doing. While I faced arrest and public shame, Linda vanished like morning mist, whisked away to America where her mother's money bought her freedom and a new life. They say she's thriving there, living openly as she pleases, while I rot in this concrete box. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks of me, or if I was just another conquest in her game of hearts. Eva was different. My best friend before Linda swept into my life, she tried to warn me. I can still see her eyes that day in the bathroom, filled with tears and unspoken pleas as she grabbed my arm. She knew something was wrong, but I was too blind to see it. The irony is crushing. I pushed her away to please Linda, yet Eva is the only one who has stood by me through it all. Now she visits regularly, her hospital ID badge and wedding ring glinting under fluorescent lights, her success a bittersweet reminder of the life I could have had. Even with her own family growing, she hasn't forgotten me. And then there's Selene, Eva's new friend who became my undoing. She played her part perfectly, the quiet observer who caught every whispered promise between Linda and me, who tracked our movements like a hunter stalking prey. When the moment was right, she struck, reporting us to the new principal, Linda's mother. I still remember her smirk as I was paraded before the school, her satisfaction complete as my world crumbled. From my cell, I see us all clearly now: the naive victim, the privileged predator, the loyal friend, and the calculating betrayer. Each of us played our parts in this drama, but somehow I'm the only one who got a 14-year encore. Perhaps that's why I spend my days planning, waiting, counting down to the moment when I can rewrite this story's ending. The warning signs were painted in bright red across our school's pristine walls, but I was too young to read them. It began with the morning assembly that changed everything. 2 trembling girls stood before us, their hands clasped tightly as our principal condemned their inappropriate behavior. The police waited at the gates, and we watched in shocked silence as our classmates were led away in handcuffs. I remember my legs shaking, though I told myself I had nothing to fear. That's when Linda noticed me. She appeared like a dream in our dormitory doorway, her designer clothes and perfect smile a sharp contrast to our modest uniforms. At first, it was just small things: a borrowed bracelet here, a shared lunch there. Then came the gifts: expensive clothes that made me feel like a princess, a new phone that kept us connected even when apart, and money that bought me a taste of her world. Each gift was a golden thread, weaving me deeper into her web. Linda's pursuit was relentless but gentle, like waves slowly eroding a shoreline. She would brush my hand during study sessions, whisper secrets in my ear during assemblies, and make me feel like the most important person in her world. When she finally asked me to be hers, it felt inevitable. I said yes, not understanding I was signing my own sentence. The night everything fell apart plays in my mind like a broken film reel. We were in our secret place, hearts racing, skin against skin. The door opened silently. I didn't hear it until it was too late. The new principal's face was illuminated by hallway lights, our house mistress beside her, and Celine lurking in the shadows with a smile that haunts my dreams. Linda moved faster than I thought possible, whispering something in the house mistress's ear before disappearing into the night. The next morning's assembly was a mirror of that first one, but this time I was the spectacle. My mother's sobs echoed through the hall as I stood on the stage, my uniform replaced by shame. My father couldn't meet my eyes, his hands trembling as he tried to comfort my mother. I searched the crowd desperately for Linda, but she was gone, spirited away to America while I faced the consequences alone. As I fainted on that stage, I didn't know I was falling into a new life, one measured in prison sentences and visiting hours. The path from that first assembly to this cell seems both impossibly long and heartbreakingly short. Sometimes I wonder if those 2 girls from the first incident ever think about the ripples they started, or if Linda thinks about the girl she left behind to drown in them. 10 years have carved their marks into my cell walls, each scratch a day closer to freedom. 4 more years stretch ahead of me, 1,460 days of concrete and steel, of counting minutes until visiting hours. I'm 24 now, having spent the prime of my youth behind bars for a crime I barely committed, while the true architect of my downfall lies free under American skies. Eva's monthly visits are my window to the outside world. She comes faithfully, her doctor's coat exchanged for civilian clothes, her pregnant belly now a testament to the life she's built while I've stood still in time. She brings me news of her hospital work, her loving husband, and the baby they're expecting. Sometimes I catch her watching me with eyes full of grief for what I could have been, but she never says it. She just holds my hand across the visiting room table and promises to be there when I finally walk free. Through Eva's careful words and whispered conversations with other inmates, visitors, the truth has emerged like a photograph developing in darkroom chemicals. Each revelation burns deeper than the last. Linda's mother didn't just send her daughter to America, she owned merited Queen's College itself. Every brick, every rule, every punishment was under her control. The new principal who caught us that night. She was Linda's mother, appointed specifically to protect her daughter's reputation while sacrificing mine. But the cruelest revelations came later. Linda, my Linda, who had seemed so innocent and loving, had done this before. She had seduced not only students but teachers, even carrying on an affair with our former principal. Each time, someone else took the fall while she emerged unscathed. I wasn't her first victim, just her last at merited Queen's College before she moved on to greener pastures. Celine's role in my downfall wasn't chance either. She had been recruited by Linda's mother, tasked with watching her daughter, and reporting any potential scandals before they could explode. But instead of stopping Linda, she was instructed to ensure that any exposure would pin the blame on Linda's partners, never on Linda herself. I was just another sacrifice to protect the family name. Now, as I sit in my cell writing this story, I understand the elaborate trap I walked into. While Linda posts pictures of her glamorous life in America, I count the days until my release. 4 years isn't so long when you're planning something worth waiting for. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, and I've had 10 years to perfect the recipe. The truth has set me free in my mind, even as my body remains caged. But soon, very soon, both Linda and her mother will learn that some debts can't be escaped, no matter how far you run. Money speaks louder than truth. That's the lesson I learned behind these prison walls. When Linda and I were caught that night, we were equal in our actions but worlds apart in our fates. Her designer clothes and family connections bought her a first-class ticket to freedom, while my middle-class background earned me a one-way trip to a concrete cell. It's funny how justice wears a price tag I never knew existed. I watched through barred windows as expensive cars cruised past the prison, their tinted windows hiding faces that probably look like Linda's mother, people who believe rules are for others. She owned not just the school but the system itself, wielding her influence like a sword to cut her daughter free, while leaving me to bleed. One phone call, one private jet, and Linda vanished to America, where she posts poolside photos while I count the cockroaches in my cell. Yet in this darkness I've learned that true loyalty shines brighter than gold. Eva visits me religiously, her hospital badge a reminder of the life I could have had. She brings me books, hope, and a connection to the outside world, even though supporting a convicted prisoner could harm her medical career. She held my mother's hand through her depression, helped my father navigate his shame, and never once blamed me for pushing her away when Linda came into my life. The contrast between Eva's steadfast friendship and Linda's betrayal cuts deeper than any prison sentence. Linda, who whispered forever promises against my skin, who painted our future in shades of gold and possibility, vanished like morning dew when reality struck. Her love was as artificial as her designer bags, a beautiful facade hiding empty space. Meanwhile, Eva's love, simple and unadorned, has weathered a decade of prison visits without tarnishing. Justice, I've learned, is a game played by those who write the rules. In merited Queen's College, the same actions yielded wildly different consequences, depending on your last name and bank balance. Linda's previous affairs with teachers and even the former principal were swept under imported Persian rugs, while my single night of indiscretion earned me 14 years behind bars. They needed a scapegoat, someone to parade before the school as a warning, and my ordinary background made me the perfect sacrifice. Now, as I write this from my cell, I understand that power isn't just about wealth, it's about who gets to shape the narrative. Linda's mother didn't just own a school, she owned the power to decide who would be villain and who would be victim. But stories, like prison sentences, eventually end, and when I walk free in 4 years, I'll finally have the power to tell mine. From my prison cell, I watch the seasons change through a narrow window, marking time like notches on a wall. 4 years remain of my 14-year sentence, but each passing day sharpens my resolve rather than dulling it. I'm not the same naive girl who fell for Linda's sweet words and expensive gifts. Prison has a way of stripping away illusions, leaving only steel and truth behind. Some nights I scroll through the photos Eva brings me of Linda's life in America. Each image is a carefully curated display of freedom: Linda at beach parties, at high-end restaurants, at LGBTQ pride parades where she can live openly without fear. She's built a life on the foundation of my destruction, each of her successes mortared with my tears. The contrast between our fates would be almost poetic if it weren't so painfully real. She basks in California sunshine while I count fluorescent lights in a prison corridor. Eva's life took a different turn. Last week, she visited with her growing belly, her doctor's success written in her confident posture and gentle smile. She's everything I could have been: respected, loved, free. Yet she chooses to spend her precious free hours sitting in a prison visiting room, holding my hand across a table marked with years of similar meetings. Her loyalty stands in stark contrast to Linda's betrayal, a testament to the different ways love can shape our lives. The cost of my relationship with Linda extends beyond these prison walls. My mother still can't talk about that day without crying, and my father's hair turned gray within a year of my imprisonment. Their retirement savings went to lawyers who couldn't overcome the weight of wealth and privilege stacked against me. Every family gathering has an empty chair. Every holiday photo has a missing daughter. All because I believed in a love that was nothing more than a rich girl's game. But I've learned something valuable in these 10 years' patience. Revenge isn't about rushing in with anger and violence. It's about waiting, watching, understanding. I've had a decade to study the system that imprisoned me, to learn how power and privilege work from the inside out. In 4 years, I'll walk out of here with something Linda's money can't buy: the truth about everything she's done, and the determination to make her face it. They say living well is the best revenge, but I disagree. The best revenge is making sure that justice, real justice, finally catches up with those who thought they could escape it. Linda, my love, my destroyer, enjoy your California dreams while you can. Time may have hardened my heart, but it's also taught me patience, and I'm a very patient woman now.